dog lives, so he'd have a lot more than 3, but we say at least 3.
This is not just about retirement. This is about a legacy. Built by dedication and unwavering work ethic. This is a journey through moments that define my mom.
I always think I'm going to do something different, and whatever it is, the different that I do, it always turns around to being helping kids, either at work or here in 4-H. My whole life evolves around kids. So I guess it's because I really love to see how you guys start and where you actually end up, and that's very rewarding to me, to see that growth.
There's a reason these dogs are here. They're untrained, unwanted, and destined to be destroyed.
The program was the brainchild of Recreation Director Jo Simpson. Showing and training dogs had always been a hobby of hers, and she was convinced interacting with animals would have therapeutic benefits for the kids at Echo Glen.
They come in very quiet and shy, not much confidence, self-esteem is low.
The first moment I laid my eyes on a dog, like it changed my whole life.
As part of Canine Connections, Echo Glen also operates a shelter for dogs that would otherwise be euthanized. The kids train them, and in most cases, they are adopted by members of the community. Simpson hopes Canine Connections continues long after she's gone, and John would like to pursue a career in dog training after he leaves Echo Glen.
So we feel if we're giving them those skills, they're going to be more successful when they leave. They'll actually be able to get a job.
This is Jo Simpson, a living legend.
Jo and I grew up in Gig Harbor a lot of our first days, and we lived on 5 acres out in the middle of nowhere. There weren't too many people around, so Jo was probably my best friend that I had playing out there, so she had to learn all the sports because I wouldn't play with dolls. The next door neighbor was a pig farmer, and he also had a cow and a bull. The bull didn't like us. I'm thinking I was throwing rocks at it, and Jo was going to go pet it. So it didn't work out too well because the bull was kind of upset a little bit at us and attacked Jo, and I went running. I got in trouble for that one, I know that.
Well, there's another story that's related to...
And I'll let Donna...
Where you... Remember the bow and arrow? In the backyard? Jo, go be my target.
We lived on 5 acres, so we had a large area, and Jo was at one end of the field, and I was at the other with my bow and arrow, and I said, stand there and put an apple on your head. I'm going to knock it off. And she laughed. She thought that was funny. And I shot this arrow way up in the air. And seemed like 10 seconds later, I hear this, ow! And I thought, oh, she's just kidding. But I guess I stuck the arrow in her knee.
In her knee.
I was a pretty good shot back then for being maybe 5 and 6 years old. So that one didn't work out very well either. I think I got in trouble for shooting her with the arrow then. So we were involved in a lot of things. And Jo was right there. You know, she swam. She did baton twirling, band and piccolo. I mean, yeah, we had a very active lifestyle.
As far as baton twirling and everything, that is something that Jo and I did together. And it was right away Jo took to twirling, and it was right away that I took to threading. And so we gelled in that way. And swimming, we all swam. Jo had such a beautiful stroke. It looked like she was swimming in slow motion.
Yeah.
Remember, I even remember the coach saying that. Jo, pick up your speed. But it wasn't speed. It was just that she just had this even, beautiful stroke that she covered a lot of ground in the stroke, you know, but it looked like she was swimming in slow motion.
My name's Lori Howell, and meeting Jo for the first time occurred in Regents Hall. However, there's a longer history to that in that we actually could have been sisters, because as it turns out, my mother and her father, Toonie, went to grade school, junior high, and high school together. And we first learned of that when I went home at Christmas. I went, oh, I met these girls, and one of them's Jo Ludwig, and she's from Swim. And my mother said, oh my gosh, that must be Toonie's daughter. And so from then on, we were really fast friends.
I met Jo in the fall of 1972 at WSU. We were put together as roommates. We were in Regents Hall, and that started a friendship that has continued to this day. She was a swimmer, and she worked really hard. She would go to class, and then she'd go to swim practice. And one of the things that I would do as her roommate is I would bring her dinner and put it on a little counter in our room when she would come back from swimming, which was usually 9 or 10 o'clock, and that would be her dinner, left over from our meal in the dining room.
My name is Marcia De Laurenti. I first met Jo when we were at WSU, and it was about 1971. During the college years, Jo was always very athletic. My memories of her is she was on her way to go swimming, and she was also going to baton twirl practice. And you would see her involved at the games.
Jo was so busy all the time. It was like, whatever you do, I'm fine with it. So we found this really cool little house on Oak Street, and we had the upstairs, and it was neat because everybody got their own bedroom. I remember Jo had the front bedroom. We had a little tiny kitchen that wasn't much bigger than, I bet it was 8 by 8. So we had a kitchen with a kitchen table in it and all the stuff, and then 4 bedrooms. So we had no living room. So we all spent all of our time as a group in the kitchen, and we would, cook for each other and hang out and do homework and all that stuff. And it just kind of, it's one of my best memories of that house is our time together in the kitchen.
Jo, of course, being a lifeguard and swim team and all, we would call it the Jo Glow. By the time she'd come back in the fall, she had this beautiful tan with her beautiful complexion, and she'd have this kind of golden green hair color, and it was because, she was in chlorine all summer, and so we used to tease you about that too, Jo, I know, yeah. Not a lot to tease you about, but we could tease you on that one.
Welcome to Kim's Kitchen. You might not know about Jo that she was a phenomenal cook when we were in college. Not. Actually, we had this deal at the Oak Street house where Monday through Thursday, each of us girls took a night to cook. And Jo's night was Tuesday night, and she threw together a casserole. So, I'm going to make that casserole. It was a bunch of noodles cooked, always had soup in it, so this is a cream of mushroom we're going to throw in here. Ugh. There was always cheese, onion, mushrooms, and then there would be some kind of protein. It's tuna fish. I think whatever we had in the cupboard, she threw in there. And it wasn't complete without peas. Throw it in a little casserole dish. We're starving, by the way, waiting for this phenomenal meal that we get every Tuesday night. She'd sprinkle on some more cheese. She'd throw on some chopped up potato chips or remember those onions that used to come in a can? And I swear to God, this is about what it looked like. So I'm going to pop this in the oven. Guess what? There's one already done. So she'd bring out this lovely dish, and we would all get to eat it. I'm not going to eat any, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Jo, you're killing me, aren't you? And that would be our dinner. Weren't we lucky? Here it is. Yum.
One of the other things I should mention is the little white house on Oak Street. We were strategically located kitty corner across Delta Sigma Phi fraternity. And in fact, somehow we ended up being the big sisters for a lot of the guys over there. And they'd come over and tell us their sob stories over popcorn and tea. But, okay, Jo, you knew this was coming. There were a couple guys at Delta Sigma Phi who wanted more than just a big sister relationship with you. Yeah, you remember, Can we say Armin Binkhausen? So anyway, Armin had goo-goo eyes over Jo.
She really attracted an incredible amount of attention, not because when she was on the football field leading the band, but when she was with her long licorice rope walking around the campus, and she was like a Pied Piper. She had all these guys following her, and she was almost oblivious to it all.
Jo is absolutely, and still is, a stunning woman. And there were guys falling left and right for this girl who could care less.
Jo was beautiful and still is. And she had a lot of young men that really followed her with their eyes. It wasn't something that she took too much notice of, but all of her friends, all of us in Regents, were very, very keen on letting her know about all the guys that were after her. She really had a fan club that she didn't pay too much attention to.
You're just such a good-hearted person. You always were disciplined, athletic, but took a lot of drive, a lot of commitment in addition to your studies, and hats off to you for what you did during school. And in fact, I remember when you got your internship at Echo Glen, and you said, yeah, it's really challenging, but I like it here. And my goodness, how many people do you know who have made a professional commitment, especially for kids who've had such a disadvantaged life, and here you have given them a new lease on life. Jo, just hats off to you for 40 plus years of tremendous positive impact on our youth and our community.
So I'm Patty Burnson, and I met Jo in 1976 at Echo Glen because she worked at Echo Glen in the recreation department, and I had just started working at Echo Glen. So I have known her for her entire career at Echo Glen. She was so dedicated to her work and to having fun doing it. 40 years is a really long time, and things used to be really different when we started. We never used to lock doors. Buildings never used to be locked. We used to take kids to the community. They used to go camping. And I remember there is a picture of someone jumping off of a cliff into the water, and that is Jo. And she did that because all the other people that were going to be jumping, nobody would jump. They didn't believe that you really could do it. So you never say that to Jo. So she said, yes, you can, and she jumped. I mean, those are experiences in team building that, you just can't get through any kind of counseling session, so to speak. The basketball teams going out in the community and bringing teams in. I mean, we would not have a basketball program if it wasn't for Jo. So working at Echo Glen with Jo for 40 years, I could not even imagine how many college students she's impacted, staff she impacted, and residents that we've served, because we've had hundreds of staff through the recreation building, and she's impacted so many of them with her skills and abilities and interests and hobbies and her willingness to train people. And also the number of residents that she's impacted. My goodness, we have like 400 residents a year through our facility, and she touches the lives of every single one of those. And you're talking 40 years. That's a really long time. Never ceased to amaze me what she was able to accomplish in those years that she was, and how many kids she actually impacted in those years.
I met Jo in the mid-'80s when I was her work study at Echo Glen. She was my boss. I worked with her brother, Terry, and so we kind of did whatever we wanted, and we would say, no, we're not doing that. We want to do something fun. And she would just shake her head, and it's like, okay, what do you guys want to do? And she was a great boss.
When we first met, and one of the first things we wanted to do together, or you thought I should be invited to, was to go to the swim meet with the girls from Echo Glen. And your mom didn't think it was a great idea that maybe one of the first meetings of my parents to your mom was that we were going to go sleep in tents with juveniles. So we didn't do that, but we did get to put, a basketball and volleyball team together to go play at Echo Glen. It was co-ed for volleyball, and the girls' basketball team we played. which was fun.
It isn't just a regular recreation building. She was always in tune with what was going to be best for the kids and what was going to serve and provide support for the kids and learning opportunities for the kids to be better when they get out of the facility. And then she started talking about starting a dog program, and the timing wasn't quite right. And I always would say it's not quite right yet. But she did not give up in her way, which is typically Jo. And she kept bringing it up, and I think she fell off her chair when I said, let's do it, let's go.
Hey Jo, it's Tina. Just want to let you know what an honor it is that you have trusted me with your baby. Your program that you have created has been absolutely amazing. It's great for the kids, great for the dogs, great for the adopters and everyone involved. I've really enjoyed working with you. You have taught me so much regarding the dogs and the kids. You're fair, you're friendly, you've got it all. You would never judge anybody, and you're always kind. Some fun times that I will always remember are, going to Red Robin and me stealing your free food, as well as the kids spelling their commands OFF instead of saying the word. I do know that the dogs will be fine. They're not going to die whenever I don't give them a blanket. However, you do know they're getting blankets.
Creating canine connections was my mom's dream become reality, and her love for dogs all started from a very young age.
We had a little dog growing up in Bellevue. It was a little toy Manchester Terrier.
Gigi.
And if you wanted this dog to do a trick, just go get Jo. And Jo taught this dog, and this dog was a smart little dog.
Yeah.
Jo taught this dog to do about anything a dog could do.
Remember with her barking, Jo would teach the dog, well, supposedly how to add. And through Jo's intonation, she would say, okay, what's 1 and 1? And Gypsy would go, roof, roof. And she could go all the way up to, was it 5?
I don't know, it was a long ways,
Yeah.
but she could add all the way up
It
to
was incredible.
5. So you might as well give that girl a dog and have him work with a dog, because the dog's going to end up doing anything the gal Jo works with her doing, and that's the way Jo was.
Yeah, but going back to Gig Harbor, for me, that was our first dog, King. Remember King?
Mm-hmm.
Female, but I don't know how she got the name King.
And she'd go everywhere with us.
Yeah.
We'd go off in the woods and we'd take our dog. I mean, that's just
Well, the
the
dog
way
would
it was.
follow Jo anywhere she went.
Yeah.
And I think the dog was mainly the protector of Jo from you.
Probably so.
Okay. Yeah.
Once we moved back into the Northwest, we were lucky enough to live very close to them. We were in Lake City. They were in Lake City.
3 or 4 miles.
And we did a lot of things together. All the way through having children and dogs, and we were just very, very, very close. And it was a great time because it was a wonderful foursome, and we did a lot of fun things.
You want to aim this at Logan here?
Yeah, we have
Aim
Logan
this
down
at
here.
Logan.
Do you see him down here?
There it is. And Aunt Jo, of course, started this with the Goldens. That's continued right on to this
Through
day.
Carly.
I'm Mayor Simpson, and I've known Jo since probably the early 70s. We were sister-in-laws. We became very great friends over the years. I think Jo and I really became closer around the time that I started breeding collies. And we stuck pretty close together during that time, her helping me with the training of the dogs and deciding who to breed to, and helping me make decisions about the dogs and all that kind of stuff. Because I wasn't unflappable, I would get pretty hysterical at times because I didn't even know what I was doing, and Jo would say, "Mare, breathe, just breathe." And then she would be so unflappable and so calm no matter what was going on, whether my dog was peeing on the person's leg or, whatever was going on. It was no big deal to Jo. She just took it in her stride. And so I greatly appreciated that.
Dogs have always played an important role in my mom's life, but so have her friends and family.
This adventurous friendship has lasted almost 34 years. And in that time, we were young moms together, and then we were aerobic instructors together, art classes together for a long time with Dory, and teaching CPR. It was like just best friends immediately, because we had the same kind of, a similar sense of humor, kind of quirky, and And then the kids, because there was Lisa, Carly, Andrew, and Cameron in that order. And we just spent time together with our kids.
I met Jo in 1982, and we were both young moms at that point, and we both loved teaching aerobics. Jo was always dependable. I always trusted that when she was teaching an aerobics class, and she and Marcia taught together, but when they were together, we were such a great team.
I'm Ashley, and I met Jo when I was in 3rd grade, because Cameron and I were in the same class, and she was doing a demonstration on how to make dog treats. And she picked me to help, and the rest is history.
And then they spent that whole next summer together, almost every day of the summer, and that's how Cam became my daughter. Thank you, Jo, for sharing. We were at Puyallup because you were just barely 10 years old, and Jo says, we've got to figure out how to groom your dog. Because, he was not a golden retriever.
He was groomed in a pet store.
Right. She said, let's go over to the Schnauzer ring. We went over to the Schnauzer, we just followed along, because we always just followed along. And Joe's standing there, we watched all the Schnauzers come out of the ring, and she said, here's what we need to do. We need to follow that handler back to her setup.
The one that won, right?
Yeah, the one that won. And so we followed the handler back to her setup. This is like my first AKC show ever.
Oh.
It was Bonnie.
Yeah.
It was our friend Bonnie, and we ended up with Norwich Terriers and Brussels Griffons because we met Bonnie.
Yeah.
But Bonnie taught Ashley how to groom a Schnauzer. But it was because Jo said, let's just go follow her back to her setup.
Mm-hmm.
I met Jo Simpson in 1992. I was just starting out raising and breeding golden retrievers, and we met through the Evergreen Golden Retriever Club. In 1989, I'd acquired a golden retriever puppy. Her name was Trina. After Trina had her second litter of puppies, the Simpsons got Sadie from that litter. We retired Trina from breeding. She was such a beautiful girl and a born show dog, so we gave her to Carly so that Carly had a junior's dog to show. Our families just became really close friends. I was always welcome in their home. There were times when I wanted to run away, and I ran away to Jo's house.
I was pretty involved in 4-H all throughout my teenage years in middle school and high school. One of my biggest memories and things I don't even know if I ever told Jo was that I used a story from my experience with her as part of my college essay to get into college. And what happened was I had been vice president of our club. I think I was 16 at the time, and I was just kind of slacking off. And she called me one morning about a month before fair time. And I just remember her saying on the phone, "Congratulations, Madam President." And I was like, what? And what happened was that our president at the time had to step down right before fair. And it was kind of a big deal because it was like a 60-member 4-H club that suddenly had no young adult leader going in. And so suddenly it was my responsibility. And Jo guided me through everything. That was a big wake-up call, and to realize how much responsibility I actually had, even if I was the vice president. And we were able to make lemonade out of lemons, but it was a big thanks to Jo there. But I did use that for my essay getting into college, and I got into. So thanks, Jo.
I had a fabulous chocolate lab who was aging and wanted to become a little bit more competitive in showing, and Jo was kind enough to offer me what became probably one of my favorite dogs ever, was Audrey, to show, and it was a golden retriever that Jo had bred. You can see my baby Chase here is going to join our conversation. To be associated with Jo and learn from Jo to how to show was definitely a competitive advantage, I guess is how I saw it, and definitely learned a lot from Jo. But Jo was also very kind and saw that I needed that help. I wasn't going to get anywhere in the confirmation or show ring with the dog I had, so she was very open to allowing Audrey to come and be with me and to be my dog. And for that, I probably owe more than I will ever know with my dog showing career, because it allowed me to succeed and to have a dog that I could show to a higher competitive level in 4-H that eventually led to other bigger and greater things.
What is your favorite all-time fair memory from any past year?
When Stacy Slade won overall the dog program, and then she went to round robin and won all that. And then she went to top 10 and won that. And then she did obedience and won overall grant. I mean, she was out of our club and she won everything there was to win that year, and that was her goal. And I remember at the beginning of the year, I go, well, that's a little ambitious, that goal, to win everything. I mean, to win everything. She did it. She won everything. I will never forget that. That to me was like, okay, that's an overachiever, but she actually did it. So I guess setting your goals and being able to achieve to that level is always possible.
I was very young. I was, 7 or 8 years old when I started working with Jo in DOGS. DOGS was a huge club. We had lots of kids, and I always found it really amazing how Jo ran that whole club. She was always there during the training classes, taking time with each kid. And so I always really appreciated that I could go to her with any questions. She was always there helping me or checking in on certain things, noticing how I was doing. She, even if I didn't know she was watching me and had feedback for me. She got me into junior handling. That wasn't something I even was aware of or interested in doing. She gave me my first juniors dog and got me into doing that. Even when I wasn't really aware of where my path was going, she was watching what I was capable of and checking in with me and giving me goals and pushing me to do more. And I think that's really what a leader is someone who's leading you to new great things. I have recently taken over DOGS, and I am constantly thinking, how did Jo do this?
To begin with, we're going to do a little dance party for you, since that's one of your favorite things to do.
It's quite possible that the one thing my mom likes doing more than anything is making other people laugh.
Well, I have, I guess, a memory of Jo that she would probably say is her memory, but it makes me laugh every time because it's so classic for the way she and I are so very different. She's such a girly girl, and she has to be totally made up and high heels on everywhere she goes. No, I'm lying because we all know that that's not true. So I am that girly girl, and we did a lot of traveling together to dog shows and other events and had a lot of fun. And her enjoyment of all of my extra accoutrements that I would need to have for a dog show weekend, and watching her sift through my makeup bag every time, just wondering what this was and what I would do with that and what this was for. She was always just aghast at all the stuff that I needed to have with me. I always had to make sure that there was some shoes that were completely inappropriate or some extra hair products that would never ever need to be used, but they had to fill the counter up with all kinds of stuff just to keep her entertained. So that was always my most fun thing to do, is just to always surprise her with all the things that a girl would travel with.
It was the leader's showmanship at fair. And for some reason, we decided that we were going to dress Jo up, but we dressed her up in a mini skirt, and I think she had pigtails, and she had bright pink eyeshadow, and she had her little Pomeranian penny. But we wanted to surprise everyone, so we couldn't have her in the dog barn, and she didn't want to walk around the fair by herself, so I had to walk around the fair with her. And she's just in this mini skirt and high heels and bright pink eyeshadow and this little Pomeranian, and she's like, Darlene, everyone's looking at me. I'm like, yeah, you look ridiculous. We're just walking around the fair. People have no idea that she's just dressed up like this. They probably think that this is what she looks like every day.
She came down and judged our fair in Pierce County, and everyone kept calling her the scary lady. And I was like, she's not a scary lady, she's Jo. And she was giving white ribbons to people, and then afterwards she was being really helpful to people, and they're like, oh, I guess she's not scary. And I'm like, no.
I don't know how she drives and not get in an accident. It is hysterical to drive with her. Her stories about her driving, make you kind of hold on with white knuckling.
It's shocking you can drive the wrong way down a one-way street.
Yeah.
Get pulled over by the police and not get a ticket.
I also love the one where she was speeding out I-90 and she knew she was going to get pulled over, so she pulled over to the side without the state patrol pulling her over and jumped out of the car and said, "I'm lost." He took her, exactly, she made up some destination and he took her there.
And then she complains because she's like, but I had to follow him and it was so slow.
When we were going to shows in Eastern Washington and your mom got pulled over for speeding and she told the police officer that it was so foggy outside that she couldn't see her speedometer. And he bought it, or at least thought, okay, she was clever enough to try to come up with that, let her go.
Jo has always been very upbeat and a happy person. At the camp, she was always willing to crack jokes and relieve the tension when everybody was tired and wanting to go home, and she knew that, and she wanted to make it as fun as possible, but also a great learning experience.
I think Jo's like fun-loving nature and just excitement to be around people makes a difference in her leadership because she's able to connect with people. Like, it's not just leading, but you have to be able to connect with people and to have like a deeper level, because people aren't gonna someone they don't like, and everyone loves Jo because she's fun and they can laugh. And she laughs at her own mistakes, and so she teaches us that we can laugh at ours. And so I think that is one of the big qualities that makes her such a great leader. We were always invited and encouraged. We were allowed to fail and then encouraged to succeed. So I think that made a big impact on me.
You know, Jo is a person that gave opportunity to anybody that wanted it, and to me, she definitely gave the opportunity to show dogs and to grow as a person. After I'd been in 4-H for a few years, I was offered the opportunity to get a dog named Topper, and Jo was the owner of this dog, and it was more than just a home. She drove me to the shows to get me started and introduced me to the right people where I could work to help pay for my entries, and she was very supportive, and then I went on with this dog and had quite a bit of success. Topper was a great dog. I like to refer to him as the world's best dog. He was full of trouble but full of love, and we ended up going back to Westminster and competing, and we won Best Junior at Westminster under Annie Clark. And that's probably one of the highlights of my show career, and she started it all. A lot of those opportunities were opened up by Jo, who just opened doors, and she just has a unique way of opening doors, because she opens doors and then lets you feel like it's yours. Even if she had a lot to do with it, you would never know until you look back and you're like, wow, that would have never happened if it weren't for her.
I was in 4-H and I was interacting with Jo through 4-H. I think that she left kind of a lasting impression on me in my childhood, because I remember her always wanting us to do our best. It was just pushing to do the best that you could, and that definitely has been something that has carried me through my life, and I've definitely carried it now to school and getting my master's degree and my career. 4-H was definitely, I'm gonna get emotional because of the impact dogs have had on my life, which is very much in part to Jo. But definitely being involved through 4-H, which was where I started, I've made so many connections with people that I feel like are my family now. And I had so many amazing experiences that dogs led me to. I think most people know that out of 4-H, I started competing in AKC shows, and I had a good amount of success. And that was definitely part of the foundation that I had in 4-H through Jo. And so I'm just so tremendously thankful that I had that opportunity, and that Jo had that opportunity for me to take. So I think all I can say is thank you. Thank you so much.
What you've brought to people, what you've brought to dogs, and I have no doubt you will continue that service as you've given to kids, you've given to a lot of people. I'm gonna get teary-eyed. You gave me a dog that meant the world to me, and she traveled across the country and back with me, and she taught me so much, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your leadership to show me, what can be possible, and your generosity to give me a dog. And I'll never forget Audrey And definitely, I know, Jo, you will continue to give back, and there will never be a dull moment in your life. There's no doubt about that.
There's no question, Jo, you have taken a lot of kids under your wing. I think you worked with children that didn't always have the best home life, and I think they've come through and been very, very good adults. So that speaks to your character in the fact that you have brought up your own two girls that way, and look at what they are accomplishing. There's just not anybody else like you, Jo.
And she's had a tremendous impact. She was one of the leaders from the beginning, very enthusiastic about getting the committee started, very enthusiastic about keeping the 4-H program up to date for the kids. Also, she's a very caring person, and that, to me, was really evidenced by her work at Echo Glen.
This is where I'm going to get a little choked up. I have a lot of admiration for her. She's somebody that I look up to because of her knowledge of just all the subject matter that has to do with dogs, and how the amount of work that she's put into the various committees, whether it be the showmanship manual, the obedience handling manual, just hours of committee work. She had a way of being able to talk to people to keep things calm when there's disagreements.
And I think a big thing that you will see, it's not the judge, it's the number one consideration in the ring. It's your dog.
She really devoted her life, I would say, to helping young children. I remember going to the fair, and they had the building where the kids had their dogs benched, and they would have to write stories about the dogs. I just think, she ran that program so well for so many years, and even after Carly and Cameron grew up and moved away, Jo continued doing this program every year. And I think she made a tremendous influence for many, many kids over the years.
One thing that's a really important memory for me was that Jo worked with my grandpa at Echo Glen. And so she was at my grandpa's funeral when he passed away. And he passed away the same year that my father did. So it was a really hard time in my life. And I felt like, Jo always really, really supported me during that time, and recognized my accomplishments. And she was always there and always knew what was going on, and made sure I was doing okay, and that I was able to have a safe place at 4-H.
When I went through my divorce and Nicole was born, so I was a single mom with my daughter Nicole. And there was a time where I had my aerobics company, and that was the only income that I had. And I could not make rent. Well, Jo knew my situation, so she said, "Here, let me help you out." And I go, "No, that's okay. I'll work it out somehow." She goes, "No. How much do you need?" Now I'm getting emotional. So she gave me $125 so I could make rent. But she stepped up to the plate at a very tough time for me. I don't even know if she remembers that. She's a great big sister.
You have done so many things for so many people. The kids at Echo Glen, starting the Canine Connections, Tina, and she's going to be taking over for you. Staff that would be sick or have a serious illness like cancer, and you would give them your sick leave because you never used yours ever. The book would be so full of names of all the people you've helped, and you didn't do it with braggadocio or with anybody knowing. You never made it known. You always, of course, you always run under the radar. You just did it out of the kindness of your heart, and because somebody needed help.
Some of you that know my mom know that her favorite animal, besides of course a dog, is an elephant. An elephant personality is a person whose deliberate movements exude confidence and calm, in all aspects of his or her life. While maybe not the king of the animal world, it surely is a member of the royal family. With an imposing physical presence and a kind spiritual demeanor, it moves easily through life, where few barriers can hold it back. There's a touch of cool in the stoic elephant that's appealing and reassuring. While elephants set their minds to something, they do not waver in their commitment until the task is complete. Trustworthy and honest, they always let others know where they stand with regards to their feelings. Jo Simpson, by my standards, you're the best elephant that's ever humanized, and I love you for it.
Jo, you're one in a million, and the 4-H program is never going to be the same without you. And I am so sad to see you go, but I'm so excited and so happy for your next chapter in this life. So please stay close to your phone for when I need your help and advice in the 4-H department.
Jo, when I think about you, the first visualization that pops into my mind is your unflappable, calm demeanor in any situation. This is what it is, attitude toward life, along with a fantastic sense of humor and great laugh. Mostly my thoughts and experiences, however, are centered on how you just plain appreciate people, including me, for exactly who they are. So Jo, in your retirement, what I wish for you is happiness in Arizona, and I know you will do what you always do well. Find people to have fun with, laugh with, help and love. Thank you so much for being and continuing to be a part of my life. Don't think as you're moving to Arizona you're going to escape me. I will find you. Love you, Jo.
Oh my gosh, Jo! Oh, enjoy it. This is so wonderful that you get to retire after all these years of being such a faithful citizen to the population that you have served and the unique programs you have brought to the students that you worked with, because you are a wonderful teacher to them. And just enjoy, do all the things that you have been thinking about doing, and come visit. Don't forget us in the Pacific Northwest.
Jo, I want to thank you for so many things. You were and are a huge influence in my life, and I often think, what would Jo do? How can I inspire people the way that you did, Jo? I'm gonna miss you. I want to thank you for getting me involved in so many areas that are the most important passions in my life. Right now, I'm into dog showing a lot. I'm raising service dogs. I'm teaching 4-H kids. So there's so many things in my life that I'm proud of myself for, and those are my skills that make me who I am, that I can thank you for. So thank you very, very much.
Congratulations, Jo, on your retirement. It's going to be so much fun starting a new chapter of your life. I'm sure everyone up here is going to miss you, and especially at the 4-H, and probably your contributions at work as well. Congratulations again. I'm so happy for you. Keep in touch.
I've really enjoyed working with you, and you deserve a break. You work really, really hard, and enjoy your painting, enjoy the sun, come back and visit. And next time we have puppies, you're coming over to help. Have a great time.
It's going to be different when we leave, but she's left her legacy. She was a model for so many people, and I think that's the piece that's going to be missed is the fact of her dedication and her commitment to serving the kids, and at any cost. I mean, it's like a piece of you is gone. It's like a family member. We finish each other's sentences. We laugh at a lot of the same things. It's going to be personally, it's going to be a huge void for me, and I'm going to have as tough a time on the 31st when she walks out as she is. So, well, maybe she might be happier.
Hi, Jo, Caesar here. I want to congratulate you on your retirement. I know you worked really hard. You deserve it. I can't wait for my retirement. I want to retire when I'm 55 from work. Obviously, I would never retire from helping people and helping dogs. Enough of me. I am in Singapore working really hard, but I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge your retirement and more than anything, live to the fullest. Love as much as you can. Eat because I love to eat, and have a nice glass of wine if you can. So, thank you and enjoy the rest of your life.
Mother, I can't thank you enough for creating a foundation for me to succeed in life. From supporting me through playing the flute, through showing dogs, swimming, I built skills that I use to this day. And it was because of your support. I built confidence, how to be a leader, teamwork, and I use those skills to this day. And I can't thank you enough for just being there for me and just being my mom. And I love you, and now I get to see you more. So, happy retirement. Love you.
Are you gonna miss us? Oh my gosh, that's a silly question. Of course I'm gonna miss you guys. I'll miss the leaders and the parents and all you kids. Absolutely. That's without saying.
I miss you a lot.
No, I'll miss you. Definitely. All of you.